All right, so it looks like we have some of the content that we want to lay out. We use the HTML to do most of this, right? Just with a couple of H1s, H2s, H3s, and just a couple of ULs for listing the content, right? So it's a pretty simple what we've covered so far. Now let's see how we can style this to make it look the way we want it to look like, right? Right now it's using a default styling template, right? The default style says that we're going to use Times New Roman as a font. It uses the color black on white background. That it puts a border all around the window. So all that is the default style. All the styling that we're going to be working on is going to override the default styling, and it says, hey, instead of black, I want it to be blue. Right? Instead of white background, I want it to be beige or whatever. Yes, and there's a whole language of how to do that. Right? HTML just gives you the structure of the content. CSS gives you the styling of the content. Right. All right. So let's talk about CSS and how we could go about doing so. All right. So let's start looking at this. Okay. So one of the ways of styling content is to go to the to an element that I want to style, right? And use what are called a style attribute. A style attribute. Oops. Okay. So all elements can be configured. It can be configured with a behavior. Can be configured with a look and feel. It can be configured with event handling. There's all sorts of attributes that can be applied to an HTML element, right? We're going to be using one of the simpler ones called the style attribute. And all attributes have the form name equal value, right? And the value, for the most part, it's always going to be a string, right? So we have the double quotes here. And if I want to configure this, I could say that I want to use the background color, right? I want it to be blue. Okay. There's a whole bunch of colors. If I do that and I go back and refresh the content, notice that indeed the background has changed from the default white to now I have overwritten the property to be blue instead. Yes. This in here is CSS. It's its own language, right? An entire language, and you could do an entire career on just that one language, all right? And have a very successful career on just that one language. So we're going to spend a little bit of time explaining how it works. Notice that the more I write on this element, the bigger the line content becomes. It makes it harder to read. So it's a good practice to add white spaces, right, so that it makes it easier for other folks to read what you're typing here, right? So use good white spaces in your source code. Typically the source code does not belong to you; it belongs to the team. Right? So other folks are going to be reading your source code. So how as better you can make it easier for other people to read your source code, the better performance, the overall performance of the team. So now I change the color to be background color to be blue. So now I have this contrast is very hard to read. So I can change also the foreground color. I can say that the color I want it to be white. So now I have two configurations that I have here. The way I separate them is by putting a semicolon. Okay, so if I refresh, notice that now I have changed the default from black to overwritten it to be white. Everybody okay? All right, excellent. So it's very, very powerful. CSS, you can change all sorts of default configuration, but the style attribute is considered to be a bad practice, right? You should avoid using the style attribute, right? Instead of styling directly on the element, right? Instead, we want to make it, give it a broader scope, right? Instead of directly applying it on the element, we're gonna instead look at how is that we can broaden it and make it easier. Usually the problem with styling an individual element is that you are forcing me, if I ever want to configure the style of this element, you're forcing me to open up this file and go to this particular element and change it right on the element. Yes. Instead, what I like to have is kind of like a centralized place where I can change the overall look and feel of the site without having to visit every single file, right, and having to change them individual elements. Yeah. So you should avoid the style attribute. You can maybe for like a throwaway example, just to see how it works, right? Just to get a handle on it. That's okay. But you should never commit source code that has a style attribute, okay, applied to your to the code. Instead, a better solution is to use what is called the style element. The style element is a slightly better solution, right? What the style element allows you to do is to, if you have gone and applied a whole bunch of styles all over your page, right, all across your entire page, you should be able to just grab all those styles, right, and centralize it into the style element, right? So this style element, notice that it's at the head, it's inside of the head element, okay, meaning this does not render, right? It's configuring, or it's overriding certain behavior of the page, right? So what we're going to do is that we want to move this style here. We want to move this color white and the background color. We want to remove that, and then copy it in here. We're going to copy it in here, right? But this quite doesn't work, because notice now that those are the configuration that I wanna modify, but they're just like hanging out there, right? I need a mechanism of saying, hey, this configuration is for that H1 over there, down there, right? It's for that particular element down there, right? So to do that, the CSS language allows you to use declare a selector, meaning I want you to select that element H1, select it by name. The element is called H1, and I want you to apply the following transformations. So grab all the H1 elements and apply the following transformations. Change all their colors, all their backgrounds to these configuration. If I save and I go back and I refresh, notice that indeed has worked. Just let me make sure. Instead of background blue, let's change that to red. Oops. Refresh. It's working. Everybody okay? All right. Yeah. So we've moved from the style attribute onto the style tag, right? In here, I can reference other things. I can reference maybe the H2s. Notice that I have two H2s, this H2 and this H2. I can say I want my H2s, right, to have a color, foreground color to be yellow, and I want to have the background color to be, what do I have, red, just blue. Right, so if I refresh, notice that indeed I am changing the foreground and background color of all the H2s. Notice it's one rule, right? But it transformed all the elements. Make sense? Right. So these are card selectors. These are all definitions, right? So there's two definitions here. This on the left-hand side is a property, and that you are modifying, and on the right-hand side is the value of the property that you are modifying. And there's tons and tons and tons of properties. There's no way we're going to ever cover all the properties, right? You're just going to become familiar with the more common properties, right? And then you'll be able to explore all the different properties and become familiar as you use them. It only comes with practice, right? The familiarity will become more and more as you practice them. Yes. Oh, no, I'll go there in a minute, right? So this is slightly better than a style attribute, right? Since it centralizes in a style, but it's still considered a bad practice. I'll go there in a minute. Yes. Yeah. So as our colleague was alluding to, this is still considered to be a bad practice, right? To have the code is still inside of your HTML. This still forces me to open up the file, right? To go in and modify it right here. So the best practice is to declare an entirely new file, right? Where you can then refer to it from here. So let's do that. So remember that we said that all the files that are related to this specific file, we're going to group them inside of this directory, course-editor. So let's create another file that's going to have the same name, right? But it's going to have a CSS extension. So we'll say new style sheet. So it's going to be course-editor dot template dot client dot CSS. And in here, what we're going to do is that we're going to copy this entire content from the style, move it away from here, and move it over to the CSS right here. Okay, and once we've moved it there, we're going to have to declare this new file as a dependency to our HTML file. Our HTML file needs to know that, hey, all my style is actually in this other file. So let's do that. The way we can do that is by going to the original HTML file and declaring and linking the two files. We can say, create a link, right? Go fetch me the following file, which is located in the same directory. So it's course editor dot template. Oh, actually, what did I call it? I did call it template, didn't I? Actually, this is not a template. It's a style. It's a style sheet. So it's style. The role of this file is not to be an HTML template, is to provide a style, right, to the HTML template. So the name, I wrote it, I gave it the wrong name. So course editor.style, it is being interpreted by the client and has the format of a CSS. I also need to specify what type of file this is. There's many other types of documents that I can link. This specific document that I'm linking is a style sheet. Right, it's indeed a style sheet. And then I close the link. All right. So let me rename my document. So my CSS file, it's not a template. So let's refactor and rename it to be a style. There we go. All right, so here's our style. And let's refresh. And notice that indeed, I still have the same style. Yes? All right. All right, excellent.